Good morning. Um, this morning, I want to share very, very special music with you. The music I'm going to play is date back to 900 AD. It was discovered in early 20th century in west part of China. There's a cave called Dunhuang Cave. And early 20th century Chinese monk discovered there's, there, in the cave there are a lot of other stuff, art, poetry, but only 25 pipa piece, there's a score. Through all those years, Chinese scholar, a Japanese scholar, trying to translate those manuscript become a modern notation. So today, I'm going to share with you, I'm not gonna play 25. I'm gonna pick 5, and the latest translation by a Chinese scholar from Shanghai Conservatory, Professor Chen Yingshi. So just imagine, this is 1,000 years ago, the pipa is very, very different. Now I'm gonna play modern instrument. And the pipa sound very different, and the tuning is different. Of course, very simple plucking. There's nothing virtuoso show off. So imagine, just close your eyes. Imagine on my stage, just myself, nothing behind me. A spotlight on me, that's it.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for braving the weather and coming out. My name is Francesco Turrisi. So when Ara asked me to curate an early music concert, he was enamored with the idea of an early music concert early in the morning, right? And that resonated with me immediately because when I'm at home in Ireland, first thing that I do when I wake up in the morning, I put on an early music CD, usually 17th century Italian music, not French, sometimes French, definitely not English, that's more for night. But the morning is Italian music for me from the 17th century, so even before I make a coffee. So when Ara said, would you curate an early music concert? And I said, yes, I'd love to, but you know, if I curate it, it's not going to be a real early music concert. It's going to be my version of early music. So as you can see on stage, probably these two instruments are the only ones who would be allowed at an early music concert. Some of these instruments didn't even exist when some of this music was written. But I hope I'm glad you're here for this journey. We're going to try some different things. That is also the reason why you have no liner notes. So I will be your live liner notes for this concert, and I'll talk through the pieces. The only thing, when Ara asked me to do this early music concert, he didn't tell me that to make me feel at home. He also ordered Irish weather. So thank you. I know he mentioned that already, but thank you for that. And now I feel really at home. So we're going to start with a couple of contemporary early music pieces. And I would like to invite the Attacca Quartet to join me for this Toccata Cromatica, which is a composition of mine, and a piece by Arvo Pärt called Summa. But maybe should we tune, or should I give you a note, or you're all good?
gridar che posse la crepar. Madre, non mi far monaca, che non mi voglio far. Non mi taglia la tonaca, che non la vuoi portar. Tutto il dì in coro, al vespre dalla messa, e la madre abbadessa non fan se non gridar che posse la crepar. Non va se non gridar che posse
Thank you. Thank you, Rhiannon Giddens and Joshua Stauffer. So what you heard there was, first we played this song called La Monica, which was a folk song in the late 16th century. And then you heard a set of variations written by one of the great theorbo, that's the name of this instrument, virtuosos of the 17th century, Alessandro Piccinini. Some of these folk songs became standards in the same way we think of standards in jazz nowadays for Baroque musicians. They all wrote their own set of variations, mostly to show off their skill and their improvisational skills, you know. This song, La Monica, is quite interesting. I always knew it as an Italian melody, but I discovered later there is a French version called Un jeune fillette or something like that. And Piccinini, interestingly enough, calls it partite variate sopra quest'aria francese detta l'alemanna, which means variations on this French aria called the German. So that, I mean, Alemanna in this case could also refer to Allemande, which then became a dance, but I thought it was an interesting pan-European story around this melody. We'll talk about the theorbo a little bit more later. Now we're going to move to another side of things. I would like to ask Kayhan Kalhor to join me for the next pieces. So as I mentioned, folk music was very connected to composed music in the late 16th century and the 17th century, and some composers in Italy took inspiration from the music from southern Italy. In the 17th century, Jesuit father Athanasius Kircher went to do a research in Puglia about the phenomenon called tarantismo, which was the cure of the bite of the spider through music, and transcribed some of these melodies. This is the origins of tarantella, right? So tarantella became very popular. Lots of Neapolitan composers wrote music around it. But for now, we're going to keep it loose, and Kayhan and I are going to reflect on some of these melodies.
since pity is fled, and tears and sighs and groans, my weary days, my weary days of all joys have deprived. From the highest spire of contentment, my fortune is thrown, and fear and grief and pain for my deserts, are my hopes, since hope is gone. Hark, you shadows that in darkness dwell, learn to contemn light. Happy, happy they that in hell feel not the world's despite. Hark, you shadows that in darkness dwell, learn to contemn light. Happy, happy they that in hell feel not the world's
Rhiannon Giddens. So that was one of the hits of the 17th century, Flow My Tears, by John Dowland. He was obviously very happy about it himself because he rewrote it many times. And originally a lute song, and then also a consort piece, and we did this little mashup for you. So the interesting thing about lute song is that very often they were inspired by the Italian madrigal. And the Italian madrigal was a genre that became very popular in the 16th century. And the whole idea behind it is that a madrigal is a true composed piece of music on a poem. So it always started from a poem. And later this genre got exported into England and became very popular. But for the next piece, we're actually going to go a little bit back and we're going to play an instrumental version. I say we, they're going to play an instrumental version of a madrigal by a very, very popular madrigal composer called Luca Marenzio. His name is a bit forgotten nowadays, but he was definitely important in the 16th century. And Dowland was so fond of Marenzio's music that he actually organized a trip to Italy. People moved quite a lot in the Renaissance, and as you can imagine, it wasn't as easy as now. But Dowland apparently tried to go to Italy to meet Marenzio, but we don't know if they ever met. Probably they didn't, because Marenzio was traveling all the time. They didn't have WhatsApp. They couldn't really figure out a way to. But just for you to know. So in the next piece, the Attacca Quartet is going to be joined by Kayhan Ouzounian, and they're going to play a very popular Marenzio madrigal called Solo e Pensoso. This was written on a poem by Petrarca, Francesco Petrarca, who is one of the greatest early Italian poets. In the 16th century is when Italian language became codified. Until then, it was a a bunch of different dialects. Most of the official writing was still in Latin. So the Italian languages were called vulgaris, which means of the people. So all the early poetry of the late Middle Ages, Dante, Petrarca, they were actually Tuscan vulgar. It's only later that this language became popular and codified. So in the 16th century, people still referred back to 200 years earlier as the earliest form of pure, beautiful Italian. Because we're doing an instrumental version, which is completely historical, by the way. This music, it was very normal for people to play in a consort format, vocal music. I'm going to read you the poem of Petrarca so you can get a sense of what the words sounded like. The poem talks about Petrarca being, I don't know how familiar you are with the work of Petrarca. Most of his canzoniere work talks about his love for Laura, this idolized woman that he was in love with. And in this poem, Petrarca imagines walking in the nature, a nature that is quite somber and dark, a little bit like today, I guess, and because that reflects very much how he's feeling inside. It's almost like a romantic thing, Sturm und Drang vibe, but way earlier than that. And he says, in this way, I'm going to run away from people, because if they see me, they will know I'm so madly in love with Laura. But the nature is helping me to, it's like the mountains and the rocks are reflecting how I feel inside. Solo e pensoso I più deserti campi, vo mesurando a passi tardi e lenti, ed gli occhi porto per fuggire intenti, ove vestigio uman l'arena stampi. Altro schermo non trovo che mi scampi dal manifesto accorger delle genti, perché negli atti d'allegrezza spenti di fuor si legge com'io dentro avvampi. Sì che mio credo mai che monti e piagge, et fiumi e selve sappian di che tempre sia la mia vita che celata altrui. Ma porsi aspre vie né sì selvagge, cercar non so ch'amor non venga sempre, ragionando con meco ed io colui. Thank you. There was a little selection from a ballet that Rhiannon and I wrote called Lucy and the Bard. Thank you. It's a ballet that we wrote a few years ago, one of the first collaborations we did together actually for the Nashville Ballet. And it's a very interesting story. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but there is an English scholar who published a paper with a hypothesis that the Dark Lady sonnets of Shakespeare were written actually for a black woman who was a brothel owner in London.
For an actual dark lady.
An actual dark lady. And if you go back and read those, thinking that, it makes a lot of sense, actually. So anyway, we kind of thought that because a lot of the music was written with these late Renaissance bass lines in mind and mixing it to folk music with, late Renaissance music. We thought we would Baroqueify it for you and play with a continual section. We've never done this before. It's very interesting.
And I just need you all to know how terrifying it is to play next to these folks. So if I ever am shaking, that's probably why.
So we're going to continue with their series of greatest hits from the 17th century, and we're going to touch on a song which was very popular, written by Claudio Monteverdi, one of the most famous Italian composers. And this piece is called Si dolce il tormento. One of the things that attracts me so much to Baroque music, early music, is that the melodies sound so modern in a certain way, and some of these songs could have literally been written yesterday, and this is definitely one of them. The song is called Si dolce il tormento, and we will join again by Kayhan Kalhor.
Si dolce il tormento che in seno mi sta, ch'io vivo contento per cruda beltà. Nel ciel di bellezza s'accreschi fierezza e manchi pietà, che sempre qual scoglio all'onda d'orgoglio mia fede sarà. La rivolgami il piede di letto né pace non scendano a me e l'empia d'oro mi nieghi ristoro di buona mercé tra doglia infinita, tra speme tradita, vivrà la mia languente
Thank you so much. This last piece that we played, piano and theorbo, is a composition of mine called Lamento di Paolo e Francesca. It was inspired by one of the episodes of Dante's Inferno, Dante's Hell, when Dante meets this doomed lover, Paolo and Francesca, who I think she was married to his brother originally, and then love came, and they ended up in hell. Before that, you heard an amazing piece on the theorbo, also by Alessandro Piccinini. That was a coincidence. The two theorbo pieces ended up being by the same composer, called Toccata Terza Cromatica. So toccatas usually were preludes, pieces that show a very kind of improvisational style with virtuoso sections, florid sections, but also counterpoint sections. Musicians were improvising this a lot at the time, and Alessandro Piccinini was one of the most popular theorbo players in the 17th century in Italy. It was a theorbo hero, coming from a, I think there should be a video game, theorbo eras, where you have to hit the right strings on the bass. That's the game, because do you see how many strings this instrument has? It's hard. But, so the theorbo was the main accompanying instrument throughout the 17th century, and Alessandro Piccinini, who came from a family of theorbo players, his father was a theorbo player, his brothers were theorbo players, is also credited himself for being the inventor of the extended lute, called the arciliuto. Now, generally, I'm always a bit skeptical when someone says, I invented something, like Jelly Roll Morton invented jazz, apparently. Self-proclaimed invention, it's a tricky concept in music history. But we actually have quite a lot of evidence that he was one of the first one to work with a luthier. First, they built a giant lute, which failed miserably, and then he came up with the idea of extending only the bass strings, not the whole lute. So the bass strings are not fretted, as you can see, but played like a harp, right? Anyway, it's getting nerdy. The lecture is later. So this is it. We're going to play one more piece for you. I thought it would be amazing to do one piece all together. It's another selection from our ballet. It's called Love Theme from Lucy. I would like to say thank you to Ara for asking me to curate these concerts. I would like to say thank you to everyone here at the Ojai Festival. And I would like to introduce once again this wonderful musician, Joshua Stauffer, Rhiannon Giddens, Kayhan Kalhor, Ouzounian, and the Attacca Quartet. Can we just do it? Let's just do it.